speaker tonight is going to be Jim Sims. Jim has been a member of Toastmasters International for 18 years. He has been a member of Suncoast Toastmasters since 2004. He's also a member of Tampa Toastmasters number 1810 and Carrollwood Toastmasters. Jim has helped start several Toastmasters clubs, including HSBC Bank and Hofstra University Graduate School of Business in New York. Jim was mentor to Direct Insurance Toastmasters and is currently mentor for the Cott Beverages Toastmasters Club. Jim will be returning to New York City this weekend for the wedding of his niece, Gail. He also plans to visit the club he joined in 1998, Mad Toastmasters. Life is full of memories. Like any significant family event, there will be empty seats next Sunday night. Missing will be Jim's father, Fred, and his mother, Rita, who died in 1984 and 1998, respectively. But Jim and his two brothers are living the lessons they learned from this loving religious couple growing up in Queens, New York. Jim is speaking tonight from the Competent Communicator Manual, speech number 2, Organize Your Speech. Please welcome Competent Communicator Jim Sims.
My father didn't tell me how to live. He lived and let me watch him do it. That was the words of Clarence Kelland, who wrote 200 short stories and 60 novels describing his father. Clarence Kelland died in 1964. If I look back on my parents' lives, there's so many lessons that I've learned. I'd like to share a few of them with you. I'm sure that we'll be revisiting these lessons with my brother Richie and my brother Fred. One of the earliest recollections I have is a time that my father and Uncle Paul went to get beer down at the local bar. It was back in the days before you had pop-top cans and 50 different flavors of beers and light and ultralight. You went down to the local bar with a barrel, if you will, and you filled up with beer. And it was probably just Ballantine, Rheingold, and perhaps Schmitz. And so as we were getting ready to go, it was only about a 2-block drive. All of a sudden, the cat jumped in the car. My father said, "Man, don't worry, we're only going 2 blocks, it's okay. The cat can be in the car." We went into the bar, had that mysterious smell of beer, and as we came out and I opened the door, the cat jumped out. I said, "Dad, Skippy got out." He said, "Don't worry." And they tried to get him very briefly. They probably wanted to get home for the beer. He said, "Don't worry, cats always come home." You know, we've had probably 8 cats since my wife and I got married 46 years ago. 2 weeks ago, we went to Blue Pearl, and I actually held Simba in my arms as he crossed over to Rainbow Beach. The oldest cat in history was 38 years old. What's kind of interesting, I was thinking about Skippy. Skippy never did come home. So what I think I learned from my father is an appreciation of beer, but also a very important lesson for parents to realize that you're not always right as a parent. I think that's kind of significant. With beer in mind, we used to have Irish wakes, and back in those days, the men always got to go to the bar. I think probably now with equal rights and all that, the women are probably allowed to go as well. Haven't been in a while. But I remember we came back from the bar and we were going into the funeral home. It was probably the funeral of an aunt. And as we passed one of the funeral parlors, my father looked in, and I looked at what he was looking. He said, "There's nobody in there. I'm going to go and say a prayer for that man." And I thought that was a little bit strange, but when I think about it, that lesson that he taught me in that moment was it's what you do when no one is watching that really, really counts. Now, my mother was a Barnard College graduate, a Wilson Fellowship winner. She valued education tremendously. Did very well. I always on the honor roll in grammar school. But then you go to high school, and it's a transformation process, and you're not really sure how well you're going to do. So it was marking period, first time at Archbishop Molloy High School. And my parents had to go pick up the report card, and I'm pacing back and forth, and I'm kind of worried, how am I going to do? Am I going to make the honor roll? And then I walk in the door, and I say to my mother, "How did I do?" She said, "Oh, you got an 81, you made the honor roll." And I said, "Oh, great sigh of relief. She said, it didn't matter whether you were on the honor roll or not. What mattered is that you did your best. And I took that to heart, and I truly believe that what she was saying was in fact true. Fast forward maybe 2 years later, and I'm having one of these conversations with my mother where I'm speaking really, really fast like I do when I give speeches here at Suncoast Toastmasters. And she stopped me mid-speech and she said, Jimmy, I have no idea what you just said, but you said you know 23 times, including you know you know. Now looking back on that, what did I learn? 18 years in Toastmasters, I still don't know how to pause. I still don't have a lot of vocal variety. I use a few less you-knows, but it's a constant process, education, and knowing what to do in times of trouble. You know, I learned another lesson from my dad. It was being a blood donor. He worked for Nachman Cadillac. He was a parts manager at the car dealership. And he came home one day and said that one of their co-workers was having open heart surgery. Back then, you had to either belong to a blood bank, giving regular blood yourself, or get people to donate for you. Otherwise, you would get a double charge to pay for that blood. And so my father went to the local church and rolled up his sleeve and donated blood. And I didn't donate blood for the first time until I was 19 years old at Fort Leonard Wood on 6 months of active duty. And yeah, okay, I got a day off for doing it, but I also did it because I remembered my father set an example about the gift of life, about reaching out and giving that helping hand that all of us need at some point in life. And in fact, I became a platelet donor. And when I look back, one of the very first times I donated platelets at the New York Blood Center, they said this afternoon, your blood is going to Beth Israel Hospital. It's going to a 4-year-old girl with aplastic anemia. And I think now that girl, hopefully if she was still alive, would be 36, 37 years old. So I learned that about giving back and helping people. My father and my mother were very active in the church, volunteering. My father belonged to the Holy Name Society. He also belonged to the St. Vincent de Paul Society, where they help people. Almsgiving is the way I would describe it. And I remember one night he came back, he and Mr. Sostak had gone up to the apartments, and he told me the story of who they had helped. He says, there's a man lost his job, and it's Thanksgiving. He has 2 kids, and he had no way to buy Christmas presents for them, nor did he have money to put a turkey on the table. So through the church, through the St. Vincent de Paul Society, we were able to give him $50. And I learned that sometimes life can change in a single moment, and you could just be as much in need of help as being in a position to help. So those are great lessons that I learned from my parents. As I mentioned, my mother was a Barnard College graduate, and my father never graduated high school, and yet they had this tremendous relationship. What they were is they were present in our lives, whether it was going fishing and learning that there was one benefit to being a smoker. My father smoked Pall Malls, and he would take that, roll up that tin foil, and when we were fishing in the lake at Twin Lakes, what he did is he crafted a hook and then took that little aluminum foil and put it on the hook, and lo and behold, I caught a couple of sunnies using that as bait. So that was the only time I can remember smoking being a good thing. Played ping pong with my father in the finished basement on a table that I think he had made. And there were times, he was a left-hander, and there were times when he would beat me all the time. And then there was occasions where I was winning and I was beating him, and I thought, did he really let me win, or did I really beat him? And then I could beat him kind of consistently. When I see my brothers this weekend, I may go up to my brother Richie and punch him in the shoulder. Or I may go up to Freddie and punch him in the arm, and I'm going to say, out-of-state license, gates closed. Because that's what they used to do to me all the time when we went to Far Rockaway, we went to the beach. They played this game. It might have been a car from New Jersey or a car from Connecticut. I would get punched. And sometimes I'd get punched, and either I didn't see the car or it went so fast, I'm not so sure it was from out of state. Now, we have a new generation in our family. I don't get to see them as often as I might like. Richard is 16 years old. Dylan is 2 months old. And Richard's sister Katie and Dylan's brother Liam. And this is the new generation. And I'm sure that in their hearts and in their minds and in how they will react to other people, listening to them and giving them that time and the gift of themselves, they will be taking the seats of Fred and Rita.